All right, if everyone would take their seat, we're going to get started. We have a couple of people just coming in. Um, welcome to D-Star InfoCon 2014. This is our third year doing the class. We'll try to freshen up the material every year because there's new stuff every year for us. My name is John Davis, WB4QDX from the Atlanta area, and the Georgia D-Star group. And all of you met Amy Woodrick, KE4IKF, as you checked in this morning. And then Rob Hoppy, KI4SBT, will be helping along during the class this morning as well. We are streaming live on the internet this morning at www.icomamerica.com/Dayton2014. We will have this as a video posted in about 7 to 10 days. We'll have it several sites. We're also we'll post the PowerPoints that we'll have this morning. Those will be available on www.dstarinfo.com. And we also have some of the previous classes with links to those there as well. As you came in this morning, you should have received a ticket. And with that ticket, one lucky winner this morning will be walking away with a brand new ID51A handheld. And we'll also invite you back tonight in the same room, 6:30 to 8:30. We'll have our Friday night D-Star event. We'll have some speakers and lots of good information for you as well. So invite you back tonight. I'm going to give it away twice, so whoever gets it has to give it back by about 6:30 this evening, and we'll reissue it. No, just kidding. To get us started this morning, I'd like to welcome Ray Novak of the Amateur Division of Icom America, who's been so gracious to help us out with a lot of this stuff. Ray will say a few words, and then we're going to get started with some class material.
Well, thank you very much, everybody, for coming out this morning. Just out of curiosity, by show of hands, how many is this your first experience with D-Star? Oh, wow, over half the room. Thank you. How many of you are old pros? Okay. Okay. I'm learning. I've been playing with this stuff since 2001. There's always something new coming out. It seems like the way that you've got it figured out how to use it, somebody goes, well, why don't you try it like this? So that's why I've challenged John and the Georgia D-Star group on Friday morning to come and do an event here to try to teach what they've learned from probably the most popular reflector out there, 30 Charlie, or also known as Mark's reflector, KJ4VO. But thank you, everybody, for believing in the technology, playing with the technology, and helping us learn how to improve. John will be giving a demonstration of the ID5100, and there's so much new in that product. And it's been a culmination of feedback and input from what you, the users, give us through the different forums, through the different meetings, and funneling information back to us. And I greatly appreciate that. And we're going to continue supporting the technology and adding more and more features to it based on what you guys give us. So thank you very much, and I hope you guys find this morning's event very informative and very useful. Thank you.
Thank you. All right, the format for this morning, we'll have 3 approximately 50-minute sessions. We'll cram in as many demos as we can in this, but we'll give you about a 10-minute break at the close of every hour session and let you get up and get some coffee and stay awake through this. We hope it's interesting enough that you don't have to worry about that. All right, let's get started if you're ready. What is D-Star? It's an open standard for digital voice and data on amateur radio. It was developed by the Japan Amateur Radio League. APRS. That can be used for position reporting like APRS. It can also do quite a bit more. So that's another feature that is available. And you can transmit your position simultaneous with your voice without having to have a separate radio in TNC or a tiny track or something like that. So the radios that are GPS equipped or that you apply an external GPS to, you have the ability to beacon your position every time you transmit. Another feature that has been developed outside of the basic standard is reflectors and repeater linking. Both of these are functions of some third-party software, which just about every repeater in the world, D-Star repeater, has equipped with. The repeater linking is handled by an external computer connected to the repeater, and we'll show you that architecture. And then we have reflectors. What is a reflector? I heard someone driving up to Dayton yesterday asking, what is a reflector? Well, it's very simply a conference bridge. It's a place where you can connect a repeater to, or multiple repeaters, and they are linked together. Now, there are advantages by using a reflector as opposed to just linking several repeaters together, because you just send that, the repeater sends one data stream to the reflector and it's broadcast out to all the other repeaters that are connected to that reflector. There are a bunch of reflectors out there. There are 62, I think, D plus reflectors, and we'll talk about D plus. There are some other reflectors called XREF and DCS that are out there as well. Mentioned other products that are compatible with it. A couple I'll mention are the DV dongle and the DV access point. Have you heard of those? The DV dongle I call a very similar approach to Echolink. It's a little small blue box, plugs into the USB port on your computer, and allows through your sound card to access the D-Star network. The DV access point takes that one step further and includes a little 10 milliwatt transceiver, so you can take your handheld and then move around about 100 meters away from it as well. And then there are DV node adapters, and otherwise known as GMSK modems. And they allow you to do some additional things. You can take most varieties of FM radios and convert them, in a sense, to a D-Star radio. You can also use these node adapters to build a repeater by attaching it to a transmitter and receiver and adding some software to it. So a lot of neat features that is available in D-Star. Some would like to say D-Star is a fad and it's going to slow down and go away. I believe you'll see this chart says that's not happening. You continue to see tremendous growth year over year in D-Star with the number of repeaters, gateways, and users. Now, the statistics I'm giving you up here are just based on standard FM analog and D-Star. So you can access your regular repeaters, traditional repeaters, as well as have the D-Star capability as well. All the Icom radios have a built-in serial port. It's a 3-pin jack. Most of them use the 2.5 millimeter plug, 3-pin, transmit data, receive data, and ground. That either goes to a 9-pin serial connector to go to your computer, or a USB, or you can use a USB to serial adapter for that. And that gives you access to the data transfer. to use it for linking repeaters, for example? Okay, the question is the data rate of the ID1 sufficient to be used for linking repeaters, for example, as a wireless link between them? Generally, no, I will say. That's a question that's come up. Icom originally offered a 10 gigahertz microwave option to be able to link repeaters together. I don't know anyone that has used that. Number one, it's expensive. That question has come up, though, as the ID1 is an alternative to that. The voice, it probably could, because your voice over the air is about 22 kilobits in network bandwidth. So it's there. But there are a lot of other functions that go on with a repeater, such as syncing the database, etc., and therefore it's really not sufficient for that. I wish it were. That would be good. Good question. Good question. The DV dongle. This is we'll talk a little bit about that. I've also got a Raspberry Pi connected to a DV access point. We'll talk about how to set one of those up and configure that as well. There's a couple of different ways to do that with different software for it. DV node adapters, or basically it's a GMSK modem. GMSK is the modulation scheme that D-Star uses. It is very similar to the GSM telephones, using a very similar approach to that. It can it has just a few items on it that convert your analog to digital and vice versa. This is one produced by Icom. I have one of those as well. I've used it with an analog radio. I would advise you, if you're going to connect it to a mobile radio, one that has a 9600 Call sign of the repeater.dstargateway.org. Now, to go to if you go to that dashboard page, in the top left, I believe, there's a hyperlink there that says registration. So if you go to your local repeater's dashboard page, you can click on that registration. I'm going to give you a shortcut to that, but copy this down very carefully. First off, it's going to be HTTPS. HTTPS:// and then the call sign of the repeater, in this case WD4STR, .dstargateway.org / dstar with a capital D, lowercase others, dstar with capital D, .do. Now that's a long hyperlink URL to put in, but if you go to the dashboard page, there's usually a registration link you can click on. But that's a shortcut. We'll get directly to that first registration page. Good question. All right? Yes, one more.
So I've got, you can only register with one gateway, but we'll say an individual goes ahead and registers with a gateway and waiting for approval, and then he goes ahead and registers on another one. If he does not complete phase 3, is that going to still screw things up?
Actually, as long as the administrator for the system has not approved him, then he could probably go ahead and do it on the other. There are some systems out there that are really slow. They're not checking to do that. So if you run into a problem with that, usually someone will send me an email and they say, I've been waiting a week, I've been waiting 2 weeks, I can't get on. I'll either try to contact that system administrator and say, hey, you've got one pending out there, or I'll go ahead and register on my local system and then work with the trust server team to make sure that that gets cleaned up on the old system. So we try to keep it clean with the different systems that are out there. You know, that's one of the things I heard some people talking in here. You're probably system administrators of your own repeater. It's not like an FM repeater, put it up and don't go back and visit the repeater for 10 years. There's ongoing system administration. So if you're thinking about putting up a repeater or have one, you already know, but do not take the responsibilities lightly on that. Yes, sir. Yes. Yeah, the question is you register on a system and that system goes away. Two things happen. Number one, instantly those call signs registered on that repeater do not go away. They're still out there. They're in the main database that syncs with all of them. We've had several situations where a repeater has registered people on their gateway and then it's gone off the air. What we try to do, some of us who are system administrators in close contact with the trust server team, is we try to move those over to another repeater. I've had one in Georgia that went away and they registered a bunch of public health officials on it. Well, naturally, I want to take care of those people, so I've moved them over. You know, if you're contemplating putting up a new repeater, you may not want to register people on it, unless it's a requirement of you getting a good deal on a repeater or something like that, a promotion. Typically, there might be a kind of a super repeater in an area or a state, and they may be the ones. For example, in Georgia, there are only two. I've been involved with most all of our. I think we have about 16 or 17 repeaters systems around the state. There are only two systems that we actually register people on, so that Robin Cutshaw and myself can take care of those. So one in the Atlanta area, but if you're in Savannah, you're going to register on that because the database gets synchronized through all the repeaters. But that eliminates that situation of a repeater going off the air and stranding some users on it. We had that situation down in Florida just a few weeks ago, and we've got them moved over to another system. Any other questions on that? Yes, sir.
How long does it take if a repeater quits syncing with the system before a particular call sign is no longer used?
Well, you're talking about a different situation. If for some reason a repeater stops syncing, it may have an internet problem or software problem or something that it stops syncing. It does not disable those users that are on it, because those have now been synced worldwide. What happens is locally, if a new user comes on, they don't get the benefit. If a new user comes on, let's say in an adjacent system in a nearby city, and they travel to your repeater that isn't syncing, that new repeater, because it isn't syncing, is not aware of that new user, which normally it syncs every 5 minutes. And so it may say, no, he's not a valid user. I don't know him. So it doesn't affect your local users. That database is frozen until it can resync. So the users don't go away. It just may not be aware of someone who registered after the fact that it stopped syncing. Any other questions? The last step in getting on the air, and you're going to, some of you I know are going to buy new radios here at Dayton, and you're going to want to get on the air. If you'll stop by the D-Star booth in the main arena, we can help you get registered. But you want to add your call sign to the radio, and that's done in a field called My Call, or MY. One of the first things you'll do when you power up the radio is go into the menu and put your call sign in. Now, here's that place where you want to put that call sign in is exactly as you registered it. If you had suffixes, put them in. If you don't, which I highly recommend, just put your call sign in. You only have to do that one time with that radio. Now, a radio will actually hold multiple call signs, so if your spouse, one of your kids or something that's licensed wants to use that radio, you can change and select the different call signs that are stored in that radio. But each one of those call signs has to be registered. Remember that. For a DVAP dongle or a hotspot, you'll program in the call sign field in the software, and then you can get on and talk. The newer radios, if someone buys one of the newer radios at Dayton here, they come preloaded with a database of repeaters, so you can get on the air pretty quick. Now, what if you're not registered? What does that limit you in doing? If you have a DV dongle or a DV access point, you can't talk. You can only receive only. If you have a radio, you can get on the air and talk on any repeater. You cannot initiate a linking or an unlinking command to another repeater or reflector. If that repeater is already linked somewhere, you're okay. You'll go along with it. But it limits you from being able to initiate a linking command or change where that repeater might be linked or unlinked. Any of those functions are not valid until you are approved in your registration. Any questions on that? All right. That's the end of our first session here. We're finishing up about 6 minutes before the hour. If we can take about a 6-minute break, and we'll start back right on top of the hour. Coffee and water in the back. And we're going to dive into D-Star operation in our second segment.